Very good morning, my dear children. Once again, welcome back to the online teaching in social science, geography, agriculture. I hope all are fine, isn't it? Since we are locked down, you may be tired of sitting at homes. So in this present situation, it is better to remain at home. I think you might have revised the chapters that we have already completed. This chapter we have already discussed. What are the types of farming practiced in India? Do you remember, children? There are 3 types of farming practiced in India. Which are they? They are primitive subsistence farming, intensive subsistence farming, commercial farming. Part of commercial farming we have seen what is plantation. Okay. Again we have discussed what are the different cropping seasons. Can anyone say which are the cropping seasons? Mainly there are 3 cropping seasons: Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. So we have seen what are the important crops grown in these seasons. Okay, now we are going to discuss other important topic, that is non-food crops. What is the non-food crops? The crops which are grown not for food. The most important non-food crop is rubber. Okay, we are going to discuss what are the climatic conditions required for cultivation of rubber. Rubber, it is an equatorial crop. What is the equatorial crop? It is grown in near the equator. What is the importance of equator? The area that receive more sunlight and more rainfall. Okay. So another important thing is that it requires moist and humid climate and heavy rainfall about 200 centimeters and temperature about 25 centimeters. Again, we know that this is an important industrial raw material. That means rubber is an important raw material used in industries, especially in the production of tire and so on. So in many states, rubber is cultivated. Kerala is the largest producer of rubber in India. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the fiber crops. Cotton, jute, hemp and natural silk are the important fiber crops. We know that the first 3, cotton, jute and hemp, are obtained from plants. That means they are a part of plants. But the last one, natural silk, it is obtained from cocoons. Okay. So here one question can be asked: what is in big sericulture? What is sericulture? You might have studied in biology. What is sericulture? The rearing of silkworms for the production of silk. It is known as sericulture. Okay. Now we are going to discuss in detail about each one. Cotton. First thing is, we are going to discuss first most important fiber crop is cotton. It is believed that India is the original home of cotton plants. What is the original home? And in the beginning, it was grown only in India. That is why cotton is considered as the original home of the cotton plants. It is an important raw material for the textile industry. Understood? Almost all the clothes are made of cotton. Textiles are made up of cotton. Then Maharashtra, Gujarat are the 2 important states where we cultivate this cotton. It requires high temperature, low rainfall and 210 days frost-free days. What means frost-free days? Without any frost, without any kohara. Okay. And bright sunshine. So these are the climatic conditions required for the cultivation of cotton. It requires high temperature, low rainfall and 210 frost-free days and bright sunshine. Okay, children? Now we are going to discuss about another important fiber crop, that is jute. It is also known as golden fiber. One more question can be asked. Which fiber crop is known as golden fiber? Okay, jute is known as golden fiber. It grows well in flood plains. What is the flood plains? At the time of heavy rainfall, certain areas will be flooded. Okay, a lot of soil along with the rainfall, soil will be brought down. It will be deposited in the plains, flood plains. Okay, so West Bengal, Bihar, Assam, etc. are the important states in India where we have plenty of cotton production. Again, you know that jute production. Then it is used to make gunny bags. Mainly, it is used to make gunny bags, mats, carpets, ropes, etc. made out of jute. Okay, children? Okay, now we are going to discuss what are the technical and institutional reforms introduced in India to improve agriculture. The government has introduced plenty of laws, plenty of reforms in order to improve agriculture sector. So now we are going to discuss what are the technical and institutional reforms. This question is very much important. It can be asked for 3 to 5 marks. Okay. What are the changes government have made, or what are the reforms government have made, or what are the laws made, etc. we are going to discuss. Okay, you listen very carefully. The most important reform introduced is as collectivization. What is the collectivization? Government encouraged a large number of farmers to come together and work together. This is known as collectivization, working collectively. Okay, understood? For example, in a village there are 100 farmers are there. All the 100 farmers come together and they work together. Okay, it will help them for easy cultivation. Another thing is that consolidation of land holdings. We know that in India, most of the farmers do not have that much land. They have small pieces of land, so they cannot cultivate that much things in their small lands. Suppose if all the lands of the farmers are brought together, consolidated, so they can cultivate different types of crops. Okay, this is known as consolidation of land holdings. Another important reform introduced, efforts taken by government is that abolition of zamindari system. Okay, you might have heard, might have studied in history what is once upon a time a lot of zamindars were existed in India, where they were the rich landlords. So when India got independence, what did we do? First thing the government had done was to abolish the zamindari system. The land was distributed to the people. Okay. Then another important institutional reforms is that land reforms were introduced. Okay, you might be remembering last year in geography we studied land reforms. What is meant by land reforms? Once upon a time, the land was concentrated in the hands of rich zamindars or rich landlords. As soon as we got independence, in many of the states, what did they do? The government had forcefully taken away the land from the rich landlords or from the zamindars and distributed to the poor landless people. So this reform is known as land reform. Understood? Taken away the land from the rich landlords and distributing to the poor people. So this reform is known as land reforms. Again, you know that many reforms have been introduced, such as Green Revolution, White Revolution, etc. What is the Green Revolution? Government encouraged the farmers to increase the cultivation by using fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation, etc., etc. Agricultural production has increased, especially in the production of rice and wheat. Again, what is the White Revolution? Increase in the production of milk. This was White Revolution. So, okay, in the year 1960s and 1970s, Green Revolution and White Revolution were introduced. It was one of the technical or institutional reforms introduced by the government. Again, another important thing is that provision of crop insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, etc. That means government encourage the farmers to insure their crops before starting the cultivation. As soon as they started the cultivation, so the government encouraged the farmers to insure their crop with the government. So what will happen? So it will be an encouragement to the farmers. Even if their crop was failed, they will get the insurance amount. So it will be an encouragement to the farmers. Again, another thing is that establishment of Grameen banks. That means many banks were established in villages, Grameen. Okay. So by the establishment of Grameen banks, many farmers could get loans at low rates of interest. It is a great help to the farmers. They could at any time they could approach the Grameen bank and they could get to the loan with the low interest rate. Okay. Again, another thing is that providing Kisan credit card. Now it is very much existing in our country. Kisan credit cards. With the help of Kisan credit card, farmers can get the credit from the banks. Again, telecasting weather forecasts, agriculture programs, etc. through the radio, through the television, etc. etc. Okay, these are some of the technical and institutional reforms introduced by the government to improve agriculture. First thing is that collectivization, participatory collectivization, working together. All the farmers are encouraged to work together in a village. Okay, and they could work collectively. Then collectivization of land holdings. All the small pieces of land were brought together and they could cultivate different types of crops. Okay, abolition of zamindari. Again, we have seen that land reforms were introduced. Particularly land reforms. The land was taken away from the rich landlords and distributed to the poor people. Okay, poor farmers. This reform is known as land reforms. Again, you know that many reforms were introduced, like the Green Revolution, White Revolution, etc. were introduced in the year 1960s and 1970s. Again, crop insurance, etc. etc. Okay. Now we are going to discuss what are efforts taken by the government to modernize agriculture. Okay, agriculture must be modernized. Okay, what are the efforts taken by the government to modernize agriculture? We know that India is an agricultural country, or agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy. We know that without the backbone we cannot stand straight. Just like that, without agriculture, our Indian economy cannot progress. So it is considered as the backbone of Indian economy. Then, I need to provide, agriculture provides a lot of employment and livelihood to millions of people. So nearly 70% people in India depends on agriculture for their survival. Okay. Considering its importance, government have made concerted efforts. What's a concerted effort all together? Okay, concerted effort to modernize agriculture. Okay, the most important effort taken by the government is establishment of Indian Council of Agriculture and Research. It is known as ICAR. Okay, establishment of Indian Council of Agriculture Research. So in order to do the research work about various crops, a particular council was set up. Okay, again establishment of agriculture universities. Many universities were set up, agriculture universities were set up in different parts of the country. So then it would be an encouragement to the people to know about various crops, about their cultivation, etc. etc. Then horticultural development, weather forecast, veterinary services. What is veterinary services? How to breed the animals, how to look after the animals, etc. were introduced. These are some of the things. Okay, establishment of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, then establishment of agriculture universities and veterinary services, horticultural development, etc. etc. Okay, now we are going to discuss what are challenges faced by the Indian farmers. We are unable to compete with the farmers of other countries. Why? What are the challenges? Indian farmers face a lot of challenges. Okay, first thing is that international competition. We know that's part of the globalization. A lot of competition is there, isn't it? Any nation can sell anything anywhere in the world. That is why we know that our Indian markets are filled with Chinese products. Okay, so the Indian farmers are unable to compete with the other countries. Okay, then reduction in the public investment in agriculture. What is the public investment? Government is not investing that much money in agriculture. That is another drawback, one of the challenges. Reduction in public investment. That is, government does not investing that much money for agriculture. Again, subsidy on fertilizers is increased. We know that fertilizers are the essential thing for the good production of crops. So once upon a time, the government used to give a lot of subsidy to the farmers. Nowadays, what happened? The government has stopped giving the subsidies. As a result, what will happen? The cost of production will be increased to the farmers. It will be a burden to the farmers. For example, once upon a time, 1 kilogram urea, they bought for 10 rupees. Now it is increased up to 10, 20 rupees or 25 rupees. So the farmers will not be able to purchase the fertilizers. Okay. Then a reduction in imported duties on agriculture products. Okay. So once upon a time, we know that government used to collect a lot of imported duties on import. Suppose the Chinese government or Pakistan or America wanted to import something to India, any goods to India, they have to pay a lot of imported duties to India. But nowadays they have stopped giving import duties. The last thing is that farmers withdraw their interest, investment from agriculture. They feel that it is not profitable, agriculture is not at all profitable. So they withdraw their investment from agriculture. These are some of the challenges faced by the Indian farmers. Okay, children, once again, international competition. That means what is the international competition? Competition from other countries. We are unable, the Indian farmers are unable to compete with the other countries. Okay? Now we are going to discuss the last topic. What is the impact of globalization on Indian agriculture? Impact means how does globalization influence the Indian farmers? So we have already discussed what is globalization. It is a policy, it is an agreement signed by most of the countries of the world, according to which any nation can sell anything anywhere in the world. So we have already seen that the Indian markets are filled with American products as well as Chinese goods. Why it is so? It is a result of globalization. Okay, it has a lot of advantages as well as disadvantages. So under globalization, Indian farmers have been exposed to new challenges. Okay. First challenge is that even though India is the largest producer of rice, wheat, pulses, rubber, tea, etc., we are unable to compete with other countries in the international markets. It is one of the disadvantages of globalization. Even though we are despite being the largest producer of wheat, rice, pulses, etc., we are unable to compete with other countries in the international markets. Again, we have seen that in 1960s, green revolution was introduced. What is the green revolution? By the use of fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation, etc., agricultural production has increased. Okay, but it has a lot of side effects. Okay, due to land degradation was caused due to overuse of chemicals. That land became unusable. Land became degraded. Okay, due to overuse of chemicals, and our biodiversity, the diversity has been disappeared. Okay, this is one of the drawbacks of globalization. Okay, the last thing is that the land becomes smaller and smaller as population increases. We know that every day the population increases in India. As a result, what happens? The land holdings become smaller and smaller. We know that the land area will not increase according to the population increases. Okay, these are the some of the impact of globalization on agriculture. Okay, that is the end of the lesson. The lesson has almost completed. Okay, I request everyone to read the lesson thoroughly and understand the content once again. Understand the content once again. Okay, you need to write down the question answers in your copy and you need to read out. Don't wait for the last moment. Okay, children, thank you.